CTBK gives executives and owners of mid-market businesses unparalleled confidence and clarity so you can focus on strategic objectives and organizational success. Their multidisciplinary advisors, accountants, and team members have a wealth of experience and are all available and responsive to each client to ensure the most effective advice, actions, and outcomes no matter the situation or complexity level. That experience base and one-team approach, combined with integrated and efficient way of operating, enable them to be truly proactive partners, doing the best thing for their client every time. Visit ctbk.com or call 716-630-2400 to learn how CTBK can work for you.
And now, back to the man who's never afraid to throw virtual hands, the social media samurai, the tyrant of Twitter, the keyboard snatcher of souls, Tim Graham and friends.
Who's in the NFL here? You? You? How about you, Tim? You, Tim.
Welcome to Tim Graham and Friends, brought to you by CTBK, CPAs and business consultants. I'm Tim Graham of The Athletic, here with Jonah Bronstein of the New Bronze. Oh, I did it again. 2 weeks in a row, my brain went on autopilot. I did New Bronstein Times. From Bronstein.
It's all fake shit anyways.
No, I know, but it's I like to stick with the bit, much like I'm coming to you still from this undisclosed location.
W.I.V. Bronstein.
A lot of people have been wondering what's on the other side of this window, and I feel like it's time for me to confess that it's actually just a poster. It is not. It's just a wall, and it
looks like a portal to heaven.
Well, that's as close as I'll get. We're joined by noted author, podcaster, longtime Bills fan, Joe Lozito. Great friend of the show, and we look for any excuse to have Joe on. Joe, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. You know, I love coming on. I love talking to you. This is phenomenal. I thought the window was just like on a TV show where there's nothing behind it, but they have it looks like there's light behind it. I just thought it was a prop.
Well, yeah, you're half right. It's a poster. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, there's a guy eating a sandwich and smoking a joint on the other side, waiting to move a plant or something. It's the same guy who works Jonah's tree.
Nice.
I want to know who's on the other side of that door. What's on the other side of that door? Who you got locked in that closet?
It's not a closet, as far as you know. It could be a metaphor. Speaking of closets. Hey, speaking of closets, aren't you in a closet right now? You are in your Bills nook, as you like to call it, a nook. But last time you were on the show, it was your hockey jerseys were behind us. But given that this is the last game at Ralph Wilson Stadium, you have moved your setup into, like you say, the Bills nook. But I'm guessing it's a closet.
Well, it is actually a nook. This is still in the man cave down here, the basement down here. When I was on last, it was the main part of the basement, and you saw some of the hockey stuff in the background. But you met my wife. This used to be her office. She works at home, and she decided that she was going to move her desk upstairs and give me this little nook here. So I made it. I made it the Bills nook, and I usually do some workouts down here when I'm not nursing a torn meniscus. So, I felt it topical with the last game, move it in here, and yeah, that's it. But it's as big as a closet, basically, a nice closet.
Well, we're going to get to the Bills and memories and John Holisek, since he's one of those jerseys behind you for some reason.
I love John Holisek.
One of these jerseys are not like the other, and it's not just because it's white and the others are blue. But let's talk Buffalo Sabres. But before we do that, actually, let me give Joe Lozito's bona fides. Not only is he the New York subway hero, and we talked about it the last time he was on, and it is an amazing story, an inspiring story. In fact, he wrote a book about it called The New York Subway Hero, My Battle with Evil and a Spree Killer. And that is really how we met. Joe and I knew each other through social media when I was at the Buffalo News because he is such an avid Bills fan, but based in Long Island. And we had a connection there. I always enjoyed his tweets. I like his sense of humor. We have a lot of the same sensibilities. And then one day in the mail, I get a book from Joe Lozito from Twitter, and I was like, "Holy shit, he's this Joe Lozito!" And so I encourage everybody to check out the story. He does have his own Wikipedia page, mostly. It's about
the killer. It's not me.
Killer, but but you're the star of it. We can't let the serial killer be the star. You were the hero. You ended it.
Oh, I mean,
and you suffered more than many. Not the ultimate.
Yeah, I mean, 4 people suffered more than me. I guess after that gigantic chasm, I would be the first of the people who lived. But he gave it to me a little bit, but I'm still here.
So again, New York subway hero, my battle with evil and a spree killer, written by Joe Lozito. You can get it on Amazon. So it's out there in legitimate fashion. You don't have to go to the dark web to find it. Joe is also the host of Coliseum Chronicles, the Penalty Box podcast. It has an emphasis on the New York Islanders because that's where he's based and that's his team. And it has a further emphasis on enforcers. And with the Buffalo Sabres' long, illustrious history with enforcers and having great enforcers and legends, he talks with encyclopedic knowledge on a lot of Buffalo Sabres topics. And when we get together, I know he's got he's not even as a fan. He has relationships with these guys. He has direct stories with these guys. It's a great podcast. So check out the Coliseum Chronicles. That is at, and I need to stop slowly and say it because it's a little tricky, at Kala Sinbin Pod. Kala, C-O-L-I, Sinbin Pod is the Twitter account for that. But if you go looking for it on your platform of choice, just look up Coliseum Chronicles. And with your hockey background, let's talk about these Sabres and their 10-game win streak. Jonah's been covering this team a lot more closely than I have, so he's been around the team. Joe, you've been observing with fascination. But I want to bring up the topic for the class here. The Sabres win their 10th in a row last night, and Paul Bissonnette from TNT Sports tweets his acknowledgement of this 10-game win streak, but wants to give credit to Kevyn Adams for building this wagon. Jonah, I know you have thoughts on that. We'll start with you. How much credit should Kevyn Adams get for this 10-game win streak, if any?
I think he should get some credit. I don't think this means that the Sabres made the wrong move organizationally in moving on, or that Kevyn Adams' time was up probably long before that decision was made. But I think you do have to give Kevyn Adams credit for acquiring pretty much all of the players that are contributing to this win streak, that he's won more of the trades that he made, and that this lineup that he put together over time with the help of Lindy Ruff, obviously with a lot of influence from Jarmo Kekalainen in this past offseason, is working out. There wasn't a major change in the lineup or the roster when the general manager change came that facilitated this win streak. And in fact, the win streak started before Kevyn Adams was fired, and they were playing pretty well even before this win streak. They had lost 3 in a row on the road, but had some wins before that. So I don't think it means that Kevyn Adams deserves the credit for this win streak, but I think it is something that should be added to Kevyn Adams' legacy, that he wasn't the most incompetent general manager, and that he did a suitable job in putting together a roster capable of playing this well with the right coaching and the right situation.
I don't know if he'll ever shake the incompetence label, even if the Sabres go on and do great things. I guess technically his name would go on the Stanley Cup if they win it. I'm saying that for those who are listening with a smile on my face. But my thought on this, and Joe, I know that you have a couple of points to make regarding this. To me, where I wonder about Kevyn Adams being addition by subtraction is that, and I keep using the word malaise, that was within this organization and players, human beings as they are, showing up to the rink every day, punching a time clock, feeling as though they're wasting their efforts for an organization that just isn't going to make the right move at the right time, biding their days, trying to be the next Kyle Okposo or Ryan O'Reilly or Jack Eichel or Sam Reinhart. And there's probably a couple more that I'm missing of. Just get me to the trade deadline or whatever and get me the fuck out of here. I think that I don't want to say I think because I'm not around them. I don't know, but being around sports as much as I have, that seems to me to be a very real sentiment that I'm sure those guys have been grappling with, if not just this season, but going back multiple.
Well, can I jump in real quick on that? I mean, Ryan O'Reilly was traded by Jason Botterill before Kevyn Adams.
No, I know, but it adds to the whole thing of you put your time in here and you go on and you can, put you serve your time like you're a prisoner. And now I get out on parole and I can go get a job and go enjoy my life.
Well, and I would say Jack Eichel and Sam Reinhart's disconnect started before Kevyn Adams took control, even though he was the general manager when those players were traded and ultimately left town.
Yeah.
And I think Kevyn Adams was responsible for shifting the culture a little bit, even though it didn't really work out with a playoff appearance when they brought in Don Granato and he was more popular with the players in the locker room and changed the sentiment a little bit. And just real quick, and I'll let Joe give his opinion, but when Don Granato took over for Ralph Krueger a couple of years ago, you saw immediate changes in certain players' demeanor, the way they were playing, the way they were utilized. It was a fresh start, and you could really see how that coaching change changed the team on the ice. I don't think there's been a change on the ice with this general manager change. And maybe that's the nature of a general manager doesn't have as much of an effect on the team, but you haven't seen certain players playing differently or better or utilized in dramatically different roles with this general manager change. The big things that changed, and they kind of started a little bit before the general manager was fired, was not having to juggle 3 goalies anymore and riding a hot hand and getting great goaltending. And Josh Norris's return to the lineup, which that started a little bit before the winning streak. But the Sabres in December have been playing their best hockey with Josh Norris on the ice. And that was something, that's another thing I think you have to give Kevyn Adams credit for, because he made that trade and indicated that Josh Norris is their top center and was going to make a big difference. Then with his injury, he wasn't able to do that in October and November, and now you're seeing that come to fruition here in December.
Joe?
So, yeah, and I'm glad Jonas said that because I forgot about Botterill being there before Adams. And I think hockey is like no other sport. Hockey, a coaching change or something like that provides a spark. And I think the players react and you can see it almost instantaneous. And I think the players are smart. They know which coaches they like, which coaches they don't like. And they also know the reputations of general managers, and they have everybody has friends around the league, and you kind of compare notes and you make phone calls. And my opinion was, I don't think that Botterill and I don't think Adams really had, I think they were viewed around the league as probably a lot of Buffalo fans viewed them, where, there's a certain level of general manager, a certain level of executive, and then there's like a next level and a next level and a bottom level. And speaking for myself as an Islanders fan, we went through a lot of that where we felt like we had no credibility here. We had leadership that was lacking. And I do agree with Jonah where a lot of times, or if you said it, one of you guys said it, where a lot of times it's a coaching change provides a spark. And a lot of times the general manager doesn't necessarily provide that spark, but I think it gives credibility. The players kind of feel a change in the culture where Jarmo Kekalainen has a reputation around the league as being a legitimate executive, a guy who can put a team together, and a guy who will sacrifice someone to maybe for the betterment of the team, either now or in the future. And I think Kevyn Adams definitely deserves credit for putting together this team, but I also think Kevyn Adams ran his course. So you bring in someone like Jarmo who has this reputation, and then you double down by bringing in Mark Bergevin. That's another guy that has another strong reputation around the league. And it sends a message to the players. It might send a message to Lindy that, things are different now. And we had discussed it. In 2018, the Islanders had gone through their, malaise, this extended malaise. And Garth Snow was a GM for a while. And I personally like Garth, but I think Garth had run his course. And all of a sudden, the Islanders hire Lou Lamoriello to be the president of hockey operations. And everybody knows Lou Lamoriello. He's one of the greatest of all time. And then a couple of months later, Lou Lamoriello brings in Barry Trotz as the head coach. And the Islanders honestly really hadn't had a head coach like Barry Trotz since Al Arbor. I mean, Barry Trotz, a Hall of Famer. And now all of a sudden, Lou Lamoriello is here and Barry Trotz is here. Now the adults are in charge. It's kind of like, okay, we have adults here now running the show. And I just think it's not even just the players. It has to, a general feeling around the organization has to
The
be
equipment
like,
managers,
okay,
the athletic trainers, you know, the
Yeah, like
scouts, like people in the building. Yeah, they
Yeah, we're
probably
doing
were
something-
walking around with a lighter step after that.
yeah,
road
we're
trip.
doing something right now. And it was pretty instantaneous when you have Lou Lamoriello and Barry Trotz here. It was like, okay. And like I said, I said the adults were in charge right from the beginning. And what might provide a spark, let's say, for the players is maybe, I don't know what kind of relationship Lindy and Adams had, but even for Lindy, like Lindy's been in the game a long time, a lot longer than Kevyn Adams.
There were clear signs of friction, especially towards the end. And when that road trip began, yes, I think that even a relief of our coach is now free of the friction, or our organization doesn't even have to be, we love our coach. We're going to go play better now that we're rid of Adams. It could just be mommy and daddy are fighting and I don't like it.
And it could also be there had to be times where Lindy Adams would do something, make a move, or even discuss something with him. And Lindy's been in the game so long, even if he said it to himself, like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And maybe there wasn't as much confidence in Adams from Lindy, where now Lindy, like I said, everybody in the game knows about Yarmo. Everybody in the game knows about Mark Bergevin. And I know Bergevin is kind of the Rochester GM, but he's also the assistant GM with the Sabres. So now even for Lindy, he now has confidence in his bosses. And I think that kind of thing just permeates through an organization. I mean, I don't think anyone would have seen a 10-game win streak. It's unbelievable. And I'm not a Sabres fan, but there were, I love the Bills, and Sabres are always a team that I've rooted for. They've always had physical players. So to me, the Sabres being successful, I think, is awesome. Plus, I'm always the guy that, being a Bills fan, I love the people up in Buffalo, and I think the fans deserve it. So I'm not a Sabres fan, but this 10-game win streak is unbelievable. I'm so happy for them. I hope they win 10 more. Really, as long as they don't play the Islanders in the conference finals and beat them, they could go as far as they want.
Jonah, how have you, can you quantify the difference in terms of just mood around that team? I mean, you could assume it, and it's probably obvious, but you are there and around those guys.
Well, they've been on the road for much of this win streak, which is also impressive. They won 7 straight on the road after being the worst road team in the NHL before this stretch started.
They hadn't won a game on the road when that road trip started. They had yet to win on the road.
They had won in the previous couple road games, but they were the last team in the NHL to win a road game, and they were the worst road team in the NHL at the start of that road trip. I think they had 2 wins prior to that, but now they have a .500 record on the road this year, along with a really good home record. Has the mood changed? Yeah, I think that they're much happier that they're winning now, but I think the mood has changed a lot more outside of the locker room and within Sabres culture and within Buffalo and in the media. And even the NHL, how they view this franchise. And those are all positive changes for the Sabres and all reasons why a management change was needed. But within the locker room, I think they thought they were this good all along, and they weren't getting the results that maybe they deserved. They weren't healthy. They were frustrated. And I think now the feeling is validation and confidence that this was the team that we're showing you now how good we were when everybody's here, when we're playing the right way, and we get on a roll, we get on a rhythm. And it doesn't ever get said, but I do think that the 3 goaltender thing and getting out of that situation, although now they're slightly back into that situation, but getting consistent goaltending, reliable goaltending, knowing who was going to be in the net night after night and knowing how he was going to play has boosted the confidence and the morale around this team. And also, I don't think the players really wanted a general manager to get fired, but I think they wanted to stop the questions and the chants and the feeling that something needed to change, and now to be able to move past that and just be evaluated, as a hockey team. I think they're happy that the fans are cheering for them again and not chanting for somebody to get fired or the owner to sell the team or things like that. But this is all just happens when you win. If they had started the season on a 10-game winning streak, maybe Kevyn Adams would have a contract extension and we'd be having much different conversations about why this team had sparked what had sparked this team there. So,
yeah, I think it's a chicken or the egg type situation. And this is where sports psychology is so important. And you mentioned the word morale, Jonah. And I think that whether it's the attitude, it's clarity, confidence, whatever it was, that might be the difference between having that talent in the room and not being able to express it on a nightly basis or being consistent with it and finding some consistency, just some peace of mind, whatever it was within that locker room, whatever is in that dressing room, don't step on the logo, is that little thing. That's how small the difference is when it comes to good hockey and bad hockey. Sometimes it can just be something as simple as stability and clarity, peace of mind, and to go from we don't know what the hell this team even is on a nightly basis to winning 10 straight.
And I'll give you another factor.
Yeah.
You didn't ask me, but I think there might be some influence.
It's Tim Graham and friends, Jonah. Friends.
What do you mean by that?
You're allowed to speak. You're a friend.
Oh. I thought you wanted me to shut up so the other friend could get in there.
No.
Plural.
All friends. We're all friends.
Well, speaking of friends of ours, I think, there's a new beat writer on the beat for the Buffalo News who has a history of taking over, and in her first season covering University of Buffalo sports, that football team has its best season ever. The basketball team has its best season ever. The women's basketball team had some good seasons, but they went into a golden age a bit when that changes. Now that effect has happened on the Sabres, and maybe there's something to do with the change in the vibe of the people in that locker room covering the team.
Rachel Lindsay as the good luck charm from the Buffalo News. Interesting. Joe, you feel like you want to say something?
Yes, it's a funny thing because
you're a friend. You're also free to speak.
I know. You had said in passing, don't step on the logo. And it made me laugh because eventually you'll get down here to see the man cave here. We have a Bills rug right where in the main part where the TV is. And everyone that comes down here, the first thing I say is, don't step on the logo. You just can't. It's a whole hockey mentality. It permeates, and it's, I've been fortunate enough.
Can I stop you for a second, Joe, before you finish? Do you know where you are allowed to step on the Bills logo? In the Bills' own locker room.
Yes,
in the Bills' own locker room. We all step.
Yes, but I don't.
The players walk on it. The media, the trainers, the coaches, everybody walks on it.
But I don't have.
That's what it's there. It's a rug.
I don't have an Islanders rug, so it's the Bills logo in the middle of the floor, and it's just a hockey mentality that has been a part of my life for decades. And
a guy who owns a John Holosek jersey would also tell you not to step on the Bills logo. I get that.
Yeah, and if John Holosek was here, I would tell him the same thing. Do not step on the logo. So, John.
All right, you're going to tell a story about the. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's just I just got a kick out of it when you said that, because again, it's the whole hockey mentality in the dressing room. Don't step on the logo. And as soon as we put this rug, we got it as I think a Christmas gift last year from my mother-in-law. We put it down and I said, okay, you got to walk around the logo. Don't step on the logo. So even though it's not a hockey logo, it's just that hockey mentality that I have.
All right, I get it.
Yeah.
Alex Lyon is hurt. He's obviously been a big part of the 10-game win streak. Thoughts on his absence, which obviously, and when it comes to hockey, it's always mysterious, the type of injury and how long it'll be. But based on, you're always forced to read between the lines. And it sounded as though Lindy Ruff was saying it's going to be a bit. So settle in with UPL. What impact does that have?
We'll let Jonah handle that. I have a question because is Devin Levi still part of this organization?
He's with Rochester and doing very well.
Because I just remember when he was selected and he was coming through, he was supposed to be the next one. And he's always the guy that I default to. And I know, UPL's starter and everything, but I'm always wondering about Devin Levi. Is he going to be a goalie for them for the future, or is he just going to be a Rochester American and then eventually go to Europe?
I think it's a very good question and something to keep an eye on with a new general manager that didn't trade for Devin Levi, and his stature with the team seems to have gone down ever since Lindy Ruff came in. He doesn't seem to believe in Devin Levi quite the same way Don Granato and the previous coaching staff did. But as far as the Sabres goaltending situation, I mean, if UPL continues to play the way he has in his last 3 starts, he's only let in 1 goal in each of those games, and he's been tremendous. The Sabres are pretty good. But Colton Ellis is now the backup. He had a couple good starts when he first got in the net this season, but then had some bad performances. I don't think he's as reliable as the other 2 goaltenders. Alex Lyon was excellent during this win streak. He got 7 of those wins and a .930 save percentage, something like that. So the Sabres are a little bit weaker in goal than they were at the start of this win streak or throughout this win streak. UPL consistently has been inconsistent throughout his career. He can play really well, but sometimes he can go into funk. So I do think that ultimately for the Sabres to be a playoff team, they probably need to get Alex Lyon back and get back to that goaltending rotation and not have 3 goaltenders and not be juggling 3 goaltenders. And it'll be interesting to see now with Alex Lyon going on injured reserve, they don't have the active roster with 3 goaltenders. But when they have 3 healthy goaltenders, how are they going to play that? Are they going to make a move, or are they going to continue to have 3 goaltenders? And what effect will that have on the goaltending play? But for now, I think they can be pretty confident in UPL playing well in the short term.
All right. Well, I think that's pretty much all we need to talk about with the Sabres. They've won 10, and it's always a hot story until the next game, right? So that's the thing with hockey. The stories come in groups of a handful of games, and it's always dangerous to look at your hockey team and judge your hockey team on a game by game basis because it takes a little while to turn the ship around sometimes. And we'll revisit it next week when we know. I doubt it will be the main topic next week. I bet you if they keep winning, I guess, but we'll be talking about the Bills' playoff opponent this time next week. Joe, as a Buffalo Bills super fan, who do you want in the first round of the playoffs?
Pittsburgh.
I'm sorry?
Pittsburgh.
Oh, Pittsburgh. Okay.
If I had to pick one, I'd say Pittsburgh. Honestly, Tim, Andrea and I were talking about this earlier, and she would always say like I'm always the eternal optimist and all that stuff, and I always have a lot of confidence and everything. But this season's really, it's been trying. I mean, I'm sure I'm like every other Buffalo Bills fan there. It's like if it's not one thing, it's another. And honestly, this is the first season, and I don't know how long where they're going into the playoffs, and I have zero confidence right now. I mean, and I hate to say it because I love them, and I want them to do well. And unless Josh Allen puts on the cape and James Cook puts on his cape, the idea of them going into Denver or New England and coming away with a W, it could happen. But I'm not as confident. Jacksonville to me is a wild card. How are they going to play? And then part of me is thinking maybe it's better they're going to start on the road. Maybe it's less pressure. Maybe the guys get out and they can kind of bond as a team. The day before and come up with something. But if it come to my head, if I had to pick one, I'd love for them to go into Pittsburgh. I just don't think they're going to get that number 1 wild card seed. So I guess I think it's looking like Jacksonville because I don't think San Diego is playing Herbert. So them going into Denver and winning, I kind of see Houston popping in at 5 and then the Bills placing at 6. So I would take Pittsburgh.
There's also, the Bills could get that 5 seed and be going to Baltimore, not Pittsburgh. You can't even really target your opponent because there's a lot of different permutations that are going to play into that.
Yeah, we probably won't know until 11:30 Sunday night what will happen because that is a win or else game for the Steelers and the Ravens. And yeah, Bills against the Ravens is a much worse matchup than Bills versus Steelers. Obviously the Bills have already won in Pittsburgh this year and handily at that. I think 29-9 was that score right right after Thanksgiving in which Steelers fans were chanting that Mike Tomlin had to go. And the Steelers looked like they were on the ropes there. It's pretty amazing that they got themselves in position like they have. And then should have won it last week. And DK Metcalf got himself suspended. So he could cost them the AFC North title and a trip to the playoffs. You mentioned, Joe, about if it's not one thing, it's the other. And it was pretty interesting, some of the comments that I got regarding my column on Sunday, in which the Bills did not score for 3 2/3 of the game. 3 2/3 quarters. They could not score a point against the Philadelphia Eagles. And I get it. The Eagles are the defending Super Bowl champs, and they're really good. But the Bills are at home, and they're supposed to be a Super Bowl contender too. So to score 12 points against the Eagles is not ideal. And after the game, Spencer Brown called the performance of the offense dysfunctional, to which that was used in the headline. And people went apeshit. Fans went apeshit that I dared call the Bills dysfunctional. One guy even said the Bills dominated the game. They lost. But according to this guy, they dominated the game. How can you call them dysfunctional? You're a joke. You're a clown. I'm like, okay, look, first off, they got the right tackle who was in the game. I can guarantee you he was on the field more snaps than you were. Said it was dysfunctional. He actually knows what each play call was, what was supposed to happen on each play, with the exception of the 2 that he was out because he got thumbed in the eye. So all those plays -2, Spencer Brown was on the field. He viewed it as dysfunctional. I think really it's Bills fans are nervous and they're rationalizing and they're lashing out and they are trying to talk themselves into the Bills are okay. I think that's really the mental place that fans are in, pushing back so hard. If you were so confident in your team, you wouldn't need to push back or fight about it. But the idea of being dysfunctional is scary heading into the playoffs because the Jets pose no opportunity to get better. It is a game where you /rest. The Jets aren't giving their best. You don't want to call your best plays. I don't think we're going to see the hook and lateral again against the Jets. I was surprised the Bills did that again. Would they have the balls to call it a third time? Would they call it in the playoffs, the hook and lateral? I was going to ask Sean McDermott that this week, and I haven't gotten around to it. But can you call that again? I don't think so. Maybe they have one going the other direction. All right. Anyways, so Joe, your thoughts on that as a Bills fan, from the Bills fan perspective, how much do you find yourself, as you say, you're an optimist, but are you talking yourself into that they really have a chance to make a run here, regardless of how the tournament bracket unfolds? Can they win 3 games on the road to reach the Super Bowl?
Can they? Absolutely. Will they? Last week's game was so frustrating for me because it really highlighted a number of things, and not the least of which is there were times where Josh Allen had no time to throw. And then there were times where Josh Allen had a ton of time to throw, but he had nobody to throw to because everybody was covered, because he doesn't have that number 1 receiver. So he doesn't have you can look and a guy could be to your left, your right, the center, but he doesn't have the go-to guy. And as much as I'm glad Stephon Diggs, this week notwithstanding, as much as I'm glad that he's not here, and I think he's a cancer as a teammate, they need someone of that ilk, and they've needed him, for a while. I hope Mr. Bean doesn't yell at me, but they need a number 1 receiver. Josh Allen needs a safety valve here. And it was like, we're in the house, the 4 of us are watching it, and everyone's like, throw it. And I'm like, he's got nobody to throw to. Everybody's covered. It was just so frustrating watching that game. And I think as Bills fans, we kind of get lulled into it, and maybe not. And there were some points this year, but we kind of get lulled into it as Josh will figure it out. Like, Josh will do something. The cape goes on. He'll figure it out. And even as bad as the game was, they still almost had a chance to win the game at the end, or tie it at the end, and go to overtime if they don't miss that extra point. If the extra point's not blocked. Last week was very frustrating for me, and you and I have talked ad nauseum probably about the wide receiver thing. That's just been so frustrating to me. You're wasting this guy. You're wasting Superman there at quarterback by not having a legitimate number one guy. And I'm not talking myself into it. It's hard. It's hard to talk myself into it because let's say things fall into place. Although I don't see how Houston loses and doesn't get the number 5. So I'm kind of ready to talk myself into Bills going into Jacksonville. Could they beat Jacksonville? Sure. But I haven't really watched Jacksonville that much this year, so I couldn't even tell you why. But then if
you have to be a nut as a Bills fan if you go into this game telling your friends you know about the Jaguars because they have not been on national TV much. You have to have the NFL Sunday ticket and go choose those games. Go find them. Yeah. Nobody's watching those games. So
I don't even watch their highlights. So I don't know any. I know their quarterback has long hair. I know he's good and he has a funny commercial. That's about it. But even if they get past Jacksonville, then what? Unless there's 3 upsets, are they going to New England? Are they going to Denver? And then again, it's kind of like, can they win? Sure. Will they win? I don't know. So this is, to me, when all is said and done and everything's written, this is, and I mean, they've had injury after injury, and I know all teams have injuries, so I don't ever try to use that as an excuse. This season is just going to be one where, to me, it's about certain personnel moves. And, if you have that number 1 receiver, and I say it all the time, these guys, like the general managers and the coaches, they could say they aren't, but I do believe they're all concerned about their legacy. And it makes me wonder, yes, Brandon Beane drafted Josh Allen when everyone else thought it was crazy with the other quarterbacks were there. And that will definitely be something of his legacy. But if they go on to not win a Super Bowl during Josh Allen's tenure, part of Brandon Beane's legacy, whether he likes it or not, is going to be the years that he neglected to get a number 1 receiver and wasted like this season. To me, Josh is Josh, but you basically, he's playing one arm tied behind his back compared to the other top quarterbacks. They all have a number 1 receiver. He doesn't. So I don't know if you could sense my frustration now even talking about it, but yes, I am. I'm very frustrated.
He has a running back that may finish with the NFL rushing title, which is something a Bills player hasn't done since O.J. Simpson in 1976. Thurman Thomas came close in 1990, but no Bills running back has done it. I want to talk to you about that, Joe. I know you're a huge O-lineman guy, and the pride of that's what that's one of the things you would want to play for as an O-lineman is to block for a rushing king. But even that has a bit of an asterisk when it comes to Brandon Beane, because that's a player Brandon Beane was willing to play hardball with, did not value seemingly as much as the other players from that draft class with all the extensions that were given out to Terrell Bernard and Christian Benford. And I know I'm missing a couple of dudes, but guys got extensions. And, James Cook, I think, and you yourself, you've admitted it, were among those who were like, hey, see you later, man. If you don't want to play for this team, then we'll find somebody else who does, because of that belief that Josh Allen can just make it work with whoever's around him. But imagine where this team would be without James Cook. If that was Ray Davis back there, you're probably talking about needing to win this game to get in the playoffs, or maybe even last week, because Josh Allen that's been a defensive strategy. Let's take away James Cook and make Josh Allen beat us. If you're trying to say, well, let's take away Ray Davis, do we even need to worry about Ray Davis? Let's just send 5 and 6 at Josh Allen on a weekly basis, and he's maybe doesn't survive the Steelers game. I don't know. I've just picked a game. I didn't think that's, but Josh Allen's taken a beating this year as it is. Imagine if teams didn't have to worry about James Cook.
I would like to right now apologize to James Cook for undervaluing him. I admit I was one of those people, and I think it wasn't so much I didn't have confidence in James Cook, but I thought the other guys could do the job. And it's pretty obvious now that, and it's not a knock against Ray Davis, not a knock against anyone else, James Cook is special.
There were people who wanted Frank Gore Jr. They were just like, let's see him. Let's give him that. Hey, if James Cook is ungrateful, Frank Gore Jr., let's see him get after it. And, of course, Frank Gore Jr. doesn't get on the field, but
Yeah, and I wasn't that bad. I was not.
No, you weren't.
And I like
Those
Frank
people were
Gore
out
Jr.
there.
I love seeing Frank Gore Jr. in the exhibition games. I do love that. But I want to apologize to James Cook. I undervalued you, and thank God that James Cook is on this team. I mean, probably in my Bills fandom, it's going to be hard for anyone to top Thurman. Maybe when James Cook career is over, he'll be the best running back I've ever seen. I have a soft spot for Joe Cribbs myself too, but Thurman is the gold standard, and James Cook right now. You hit it on the head. Where would they be without him? He's been a godsend. So, and I said it before, like I said when I was talking to my wife, the only way they win any games in the playoffs is if Josh puts on his cape and James Cook puts on his cape, and it really. And
if
the
Dalton
offensive
Kincaid
linemen,
can
obviously,
stay,
I like them.
if Dalton
What's that?
Kincaid can stay away from the kryptonite for a couple of weeks, it would be
Yeah.
nice to see him on the field if you're a Bills fan.
Yeah, it would be nice. It would definitely be nice to see him out there. But yeah, and like you say, you talk about the offensive linemen, like they all love to run block better than pass block because you can just, pancake guys and make room for the running back to go. And, it's sort of like you say, the success that James is having, it's because of his talent, but it's also because of the offensive line. So, yeah, I apologize to James Cook 100%. I'm sorry, sir.
Jonah, where are you with, and I wrote a story about it today in The Athletic in which I talked to Osiris Torrance and Spencer Brown, and then former Bills offensive lineman Will Wolford, who blocked for Thurman Thomas when he came 7 yards short of Barry Sanders. Barry Thomas. Who's Barry Thomas? I got to look up. There's somebody named Barry Thomas out there who's just popped into my head, much like Jonah Bronstein Sports Plus and Bronstein Times.
Maybe you're confusing with Blair Thomas.
Blair Thomas, right? Could be. But and Joe DeLamielleure, who blocked for O.J. Simpson. So I talked to them about the importance of the rushing title for an offensive lineman. And both Osiris Torrance and Spencer Brown said it's very important to them. So where do you think, Jonah, as a reasonable person, granted, this is the last game at Ralph Wilson Stadium. So Sean McDermott has said that there is an emphasis within the organization to win the game and to put forth an effort. But maybe should emotion be taken out of it? Where are we and we'll start with you, Jonah. Where are we regarding resting everybody versus trying to go for a little history?
Well, you can't rest everybody from a numbers perspective. I don't know, maybe 7 to 10 players can get rested, but they can't go too far with that. Well, my opinion is I think the Bills should, maybe for at least half the game, go out there and honor the game, honor the moment, honor the home fans and the television broadcast, and make this not a glorified preseason game or maybe more like a third preseason game, or I guess they're now the second preseason games where you do play to win and play your starters for half, and then maybe in the second half you can start resting. I mean, I do understand wanting to avoid injuries to key players. I don't think the rest or avoiding the general wear and tear of playing in a game for the whole team is that beneficial. And I do think that for the crowd, for the red helmets, for everything that's going into the fanfare of this game, seeing Josh Allen for more than one snap would be nice. Seeing James Cook go for the rushing title would be nice. I do think it's tricky depending on how many yards Jonathan Taylor gets, because I don't think you want to force feed James Cook to have 25 carries and have to go well over 100 yards to get the rushing title. But if it's within 40, 50, 60 yards and you can get it for him in the first half, that would be nice. And I do think the Bills need to keep some rhythm going, play well. The possibility of gaining that number 5 seed is worth trying to win the game, though they can probably win this game with their backups. So I'm of the belief, I think you got to middle it the right way. I think you play to win and you play the starters some portion of the game, and then you get them out as the game goes along. And if you're the Bills, I think you hope that the Jets are not formidable enough to force you to play your key players into the second half and fourth quarter, so you can do a little bit of both.
Derrick Henry is 137 yards behind. Now, that's a lot, but I think it comes into play if James Cook doesn't play much at all. You know, if you can look at Jonathan Taylor in the 1 o'clock game and apply that to your 4:30 game, and let's say you don't have to worry about it because Jonathan Taylor doesn't do much. Derrick Henry in a game that the Ravens must win, breathing down your neck, might actually come into play. 137 yards is doable for Derrick Henry. 200 yards is doable for Derrick Henry. Joe, your thoughts on going for the rushing title?
Derrick Henry doesn't play in the second half, right? Or a couple of weeks ago, remember we're all watching that game going, where's Derrick Henry? I think everything is, in a game like this, you want to get out of it unscathed. I think I subscribe similar to Jonah. If you want to play them the first half, see what he can do. I mean, listen, it's the Jets. I mean, that's the team in my backyard. They're awful. Like people, if you're not from down here, you might look at the Jets and the Giants and go, boy, they both suck. And they do. But the Giants suck, but they are so much better off than the Jets. The Jets are just abysmal. And you could literally play James Cook for a quarter, he can get 100 yards. You could put Ray Davis in, he can get 150 yards. Like, they're so bad. Like, they're embarrassingly bad. And I think the rushing title would be nice, but I think if you play in the first half and then you just let the chips fall where they may, because I get the only person that would technically benefit would be James if he has a clause in his contract. I don't think there's any reason to risk it. They have capable
He doesn't,
backups
by
that
the
can
way.
play. He doesn't? Okay.
He does not.
So, yeah, so there's really, it's a nice thing. And you know what? And if a team that wins the Super Bowl, hey, we have the NFL leading rusher, we have the MVP, all that stuff is nice when it is paired with a Super Bowl champion, which is really, for me, all I really care about. You know, I know when I was younger, I was all over the whole, rushing title, passing title, MVP, like opening up my football cards and everything. Like, I just live for that stuff. But in my
You got your own
advanced age
card.
now,
You got, but it was AFL or AFC and NFC. So you wouldn't, well, I guess all three of these guys are AFC. So you'd want your guy on the card.
right. So, and I lived for that. But now at my advanced age, the only thing I care about is winning. I don't care. Like, I know it's great that Josh won the MVP last year. He absolutely deserved it. And it's great when you hear the MVP chants. And when we were at the game against Tampa and people chanting MVP, you get goosebumps. It's great. But ultimately, if he didn't win MVP last year and they won the Super Bowl, I know Josh would rather have that, but so would I. Like, ultimately, all I want are Super Bowls. All that other stuff on the periphery is fantastic. I just want to win Super Bowls. That's all I really care about.
Remember in 91, Thurman Thomas didn't play in the last game when he had a chance to go for the rushing title. He did still get the MVP that year without being the league's leading rusher. And, James Cook needs 103 scrimmage yards to get to 2,000, which might be a nice feather in his cap and maybe something that if he does play, the Bills can try to get him that there. But I think that Saquon Barkley, he didn't play last year when he had a chance to break the rushing record. I tend to think players of a certain stature in the NFL understand that it's almost a feather in your cap if you're good enough to be a player that gets rested in week 17 or week 18, and the Bills are in that position. So I'm not so sure that, it's that desperate of them to get a rushing title or 2,000 yards or something like that.
Just another couple of ingredients that might be in James Cook's mind regarding his big brother, Dalvin Cook, who was considered one of the great running backs in the entire league when he was with the Minnesota Vikings. But Dalvin Cook did not win a rushing title. He came in second one year to Derrick Henry and also never was all pro. And you win the rushing title, you're probably going to be all pro. Now, James Cook could still be all pro without the rushing title, but if he does finish with the rushing title, then I think then that's another honor that he's got.
He could get. Jonas said he needs 103 yards for 2,000. That he can get that in 2 drives against the Jets. I cannot overstate how sad of an organization the Jets are. He could have 200 yards rushing in a quarter if they give him the ball enough. That they're so bad. So I think all this stuff will take care of itself. So I honestly feel that way.
Interesting on the injury report today. James Cook did not practice for a veteran rest, which is something we haven't seen a lot on Bill's injury reports this year because guys have been so hurt they can't go handing out veteran rest days. But I think the idea that James Cook's getting a veteran rest day probably lends to say that he's resting today. He's not going to rest Sunday. I do. And also based on what Osiris Torrance and Spencer Brown told me yesterday, it's a priority this week that the Bills are going to try to get this guy a little bit of glory. Whether that's smart, I guess we'll determine that when Sean McDermott comes to the podium and reads off who got hurt during the game and whether and how bad they are, and if James Cook is on that list.
But could it also be a hint that the running backs that got more reps today in practice are the ones that are going to get more action on Sunday?
I guess, but then you still wouldn't need to give him a veteran rest day. He would just be out there at practice. I don't know that they made it a point to put him on the list. Do we have Joe, as somebody who sat out in the seats? Joe and I know you have too, but we're more in the press box now. But you've sat in the seats at Highmark Stadium. Thoughts on it closing?
Well, I still call it Rich Stadium. I guess it's definitely in terms of what you see around the league now, it's definitely way past its prime. I'm the old guy that yells at the cloud. I wish there was a way to somehow keep it open. I'm nostalgic and everything. And as different as you can make these new stadiums, as unique as you can make these new stadiums, it's going to be phenomenal. But I'm always going to have a soft spot for Rich Stadium. It's always going to be, it's the place. Well, it's a place where we all saw I don't know anyone old enough to have seen a game, at the Rock Pile. I'm not old enough to have seen a game there, but it's always going to have a soft spot in my heart. And if the prices weren't so damn high, I'd probably get some of the stuff that they're selling, but I think it's a little overpriced. But no, I love it.
What are they selling?
It's time. I think they're selling everything, the seats and all that stuff, but the
prices are already out there.
Oh yeah.
I know Brandon Steiner is doing it, right?
$550 for one seat, but you can get two for $650.
Yeah,
$550 for a seat. But what are they doing? They're going to saw it, because it's a bleacher, right?
Yeah, I think so. And then the others, the regular seats, the ones that have the backs. And the other thing is they're not shipping them. So if I were to buy one, I'd have to say, send it to Tim Graham at this undisclosed location. And then next time I see him, I'll pick it up.
Maybe that's what's behind this door is the warehouse. Maybe you should ask me a couple questions off the air. I might be able to help you out.
No, it's time. It's definitely time. Here, go back to hockey. We have UBS Arena now where the Islanders play. And in terms of arena, in terms of the facility, it's night and day to the Nassau Coliseum. It's a modern arena with all the modern amenities. But the Coliseum is always going to be my favorite. And no matter how nice this new stadium is and everything that goes along with it, there'll be shorter lines, you would hope, everywhere. If you have to take a piss, you don't have to worry about missing 10 minutes of a quarter. I'll always love the old stadium. And, I wish I had gone more, but the times I've been there have always been special.
Do you think they're selling the urinal troughs?
I'd love to have that for down here. That would look great in the basement. So
Andrea would love it.
As long as they clean it first.
How do we feel about Thurman Thomas and Steve Tasker leading the charge for the final game at Rich Stadium, the Ralph, New Era Field, Highmark Stadium? And I'll state my opinion. I think it's great and fitting, but these guys are around a lot. And I would like to have seen something unusual or something special. And maybe they do have something up their sleeve. But my thought would have been Mary Wilson would have been interesting. I know that she didn't mean as much, but she would at least represent Ralph Wilson. Maybe Marv on the video scoreboard doing it would be a nice touch. I don't think you want to bring a 100-year-old man out into the weather like this and, subject him to getting ill. But something on the video board, if possible, would be nice. I don't know. There just seems to be maybe some, and also Maybe they're doing it on the fly too, because as of a week ago, there was a chance the Bills could win the division and still need to, have 2 games left or more at the Ralph. Thoughts?
How about Mark Poloncarz? Who deserves it more than him?
Well, Kathy Hochul, maybe.
No. Not for me. No, please.
All right. Who would be, other than John Holisek, who would be on the list?
Well, as far as Thurman and Steve go, I think
They're
it's a
great
double-edged
choices.
sword. Like,
They're
well,
great.
let
They're
me just say
fine.
this.
They're top. They're satisfactory.
They're always good. Like there's never Thurman and Steve Tasker are never a bad choice for anything. But I do agree with you that they are always there.
They're ubiquitous.
Yeah, and I wish they were there as part of a larger group. But again, it's like you say, like Mary Wilson would have been great. And I'm still holding out hope that no matter who would be there, it ends with Marv Levy on the scoreboard, a video from Marv Levy that ends with "Where would you rather be than right here, right now?" Because I get goosebumps even just saying it. So I'm hoping no matter what they do, that's how it ends. Like a little inside joke between you and I, Jerry Crafts, if people remember him, he was here for preseason. That would be nice. I don't know how many people even would remember that, but
former Buffalo Destroyer, Jerry Crafts.
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult because I think you can talk
Jim
about.
Kelly's already done it, by the way. So for those who are listening or watching along and saying, Jim Kelly, because you don't always see who leads the charge before the game because the broadcast doesn't. But Jim Kelly did it a few weeks ago. So they've already played the Jim Kelly card.
Are they? And I thought I read somewhere where they are inviting a lot of former players back. So maybe the Tasker and Thurman are just doing the charge, and then those other guys are going to be in a sweep. But it would be cool to incorporate everybody on the field. Again, the double-edged sword is the glory years are obviously the Super Bowl teams, and I'm sure a lot of those guys have been back throughout the years. And I think for a lot of fans, especially younger fans, that's who they associate with. Like for me, if you want to bring back, I'd love to see Joe Ferguson back here. He's still my all-time favorite.
He did it with Jim Kelly. They did it together.
Yeah. Right. So that's Joe Ferguson is through as much as I love all the other players, the Super Bowl years, Josh Allen, Joe Ferguson's still my all-time favorite, Bill. I'd love to see that. But how many younger people are going to be there that only know Joe Ferguson as a name on the wall? They may not know him. So it's sort of like, do you want to go for the B-side or do you go mainstream? Because Thurman Thomas and Steve Tasker appeal to everybody. So, but for me, as long as it ends with a video, Marv Levy at the end, I'll be okay with that.
I feel like we're going to see Chris Berman at some point, which is not a favorite of mine, but I mean, it gets.
I hope not. If we don't see Chris Berman or the guy, the model from the NFL Network, who everyone loves, I know I'm in the minority, but if Chris Berman isn't there and the guy from NFL Network there,
Kyle Brandt.
Yeah, it's a win for me because I'm really not a fan of either one of those guys. And again, I know I might be annoying some people with that, but neither one of them are a favorite of mine.
Joe, any suggestions?
I think it should be Calvin Murphy twirling the baton. I do like your Mary Wilson idea. Maybe John Murphy could be another good one. As far as former players, I don't really have a problem with it being Tasker and Thurman. It does seem like this has been a season-long project of bringing as many legends as they can to do it, and it just, these are the two that are left to do it, and I think they're very fitting. It's something about Tasker too, the way he played and his spirit and what he meant to those Super Bowl teams. He seems like a really good guy to lead the charge because that was kind of how he played, running down on those kicks. And I don't know. I think it's also a case where no matter who you choose for that, you can make an argument that you could have chosen somebody else. I mean, maybe it should just be everybody that's there. Bring all these legends together and do it together as a group, like when a team gets introduced into Super Bowl as a defense instead of individually. But I actually think that Thurman and Steve Tasker are fine choices to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Fine choice. Lest anyone think that I'm bagging on the choice. I'm not. I think it's fine. I just thought there'd be a little more creativity. And again, there's all kinds of things they might do. The thing that's tough, though, is the weather's going to suck. And to get Bills fans in the stadium early for anything is difficult because if the weather's nice, they're going to want to tailgate. but to get people in, if you have a program that's going to go throughout the course of the game, I mean, we saw it earlier in the year, and I know that this didn't really have to do with the farewell, but they brought back the 1965. They did a tribute for the 1965 championship team. Didn't tell anybody about it. They brought back, I believe it was Booker Edgerson and Ed Rutkowski, and there might have been somebody else. And they stood on the field, and it was not played in the press box. There was some sort of presentation. And we were like, well, who are they? What are they doing down there? And I threw the binoculars, and they were waved to the crowd, but nobody was paying attention. No, it wasn't advertised ahead of time. It was just kind of like, here, let's get these guys out there. Let's note that 60 years ago this season, they won the last championship in Bills history. Get them out of here. There's a lot more living members of that team they could have brought, but didn't. And they didn't let us know in the media. We probably could have written about it. Usually in presentations in the past, you then bring those guys into the press box and let them be interviewed by the local paper and whoever wants to interview them, and TV, and you do a little segment on their honor. But they haven't, the presentations and things about Ralph Wilson Stadium or the farewell. I mean, and Jonah, correct me if I'm wrong. They haven't really been that prolific. They haven't been.
I'm seeing a lot of it
What have
this
they
week.
done?
I think it's been saved for this week.
Yeah.
That's the way I feel about it. And also, I think
maybe there's a lot of it. Maybe they're going to pump us full of programming all week then. And maybe will be the leaders, whoever leads the charge is a trifling pit of or a pittance of what they're going to do throughout the entire afternoon.
How about Bills fan Kevyn Adams?
He's available. He's not doing anything.
Bring him in.
How about that fan that ran out of the stadium in the Matt Milano jersey when he caught the football earlier this year? He looks like capable of doing it.
There's that guy. There's the streaker back I know that was during the Kyle Williams era, because there was video of like Kyle Williams like laughing hysterically on the sideline when the streaker went running around out there. The dildo throwers, bring them in.
You mentioned Kyle Williams. That's another good name.
Oh, Kyle, yeah, you know what? You're right. Kyle Williams is like the embodiment, right? He endured the drought. He got his playoff game, played for a bunch of coaches, including the current one. Oh, that would be a good one.
How about a real live buffalo from the zoo?
Yeah.
Sure. The polar bear, Luna.
Well, if Polasek shows up, he can borrow my jersey. He may not fit into it. I don't know what kind of shape he's in, but it's here if he needs it.
I did look him up. He is still alive.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He probably just tackles people for fun, like out on the street.
He was okay. He didn't do it that well while he played. I mean, there's no Pro Bowl appearances. He didn't play. He spent a few years with the Bills, and after that didn't stick anywhere. Why is he a favorite of yours? Just he was a linebacker on the Bills.
Yeah, I mean, it's me, like it's easy for me to appreciate someone like Josh Allen, but I like those meat and potato type guys. And, he played there, him and Sam Coward, they were a pretty good combo and everything. And, like Chris Spielman, he's one of my favorites even before he was a Bill. I kind of, it goes back to what you said, how I kind of like the offensive lineman. I go back to the unheralded guys. I mean, back when everybody was pissed off at Spencer Brown a few years ago, taking this penalty, taking that penalty. Spencer Brown this house was always pro Spencer Brown. And now it's like everyone else caught up to here, but it's kind of like I like the unheralded guys. And maybe that's part of the reason why you talk about with my podcast with the enforcers, like they're fan favorites, but they don't get a lot of the press and everything like that. I kind of like the under the radar meat and potato type guys that maybe their contributions go a little unnoticed, but if you watch closely and if you kind of broaden your spectrum, a little wider than the star players, you can kind of see guys like that making the contribution.
Do you have a Chris Kelsey jersey?
I do not.
He would be a symbolic choice. He played 147 games for the Bills, none in the playoffs. He was like right during the draft. He showed up in 2003. His final year was 2012. 147 games, 120 starts. 32 and a half sacks. Just a symbolic of the Bills drought. Nice guy.
Yeah.
And
I think that style jersey, I think I got Bledsoe, I got Takeo Spikes and Aaron Schobel.
all right.
I'd like to see the Bills wear that style of jersey, as an alternate jersey one of these years. Didn't love it as the full-time jersey when it was their jersey, but something about it, I'd like to see that look come back a little bit.
The blue one I like better than the white one. The white one I thought was too busy with this shade of blue up here. The numbers were different. The blue one I didn't mind at all, but I'd see that for a game or two. That's what they were wearing when my first son was born. When Joey was born, that's what they were wearing. So that his favorite. It's always a little nostalgic for me. That was his first favorite player was Drew Bledsoe. So I got a little 2 and 3 year old Joey running around spiking his Bills football, saying Drew Bledsoe. Like that's the memories that I have watching Empire Network before and after the games there. So it's just we're a Bills family going way back. So.
Jim Brinson, he'd be a good one to bring back. Jimmy B. You remember Jim Brinson? Bring him back to lead the charge.
How about Tim Graham?
Sure. Jonah, anything?
I was going to say all your Twitter fans could yell at you in person.
They can do that anyway.
Yeah.
They get that every game. So Joe watches the show, or do you? I guess I never asked you. How do you consume Tim Graham and Friends, brought to you by CTBK CPAs and Business Consultants?
Well, as you know, before you switch the logos around, I would always look on the Thursdays for the float. I called it the floating head. Your floating head logo, and I usually consume it. Usually, the show comes out while I'm at work, so I usually consume it right away. Just listening on my way home from work the day that it comes out.
All right.
But sometimes I do go back and watch it.
Normally with a guest like this, we would thank you for your time and let you go and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. But since you'd normally be listening anyway, let's go ahead and ask Jonah if he has anything he wants to add from around Western New York, say in the college scene or Bandits, or what Jonah always has great tidbits to add towards the end of the podcast on the non-Bills and Sabres front. So Joe, you can sit here and listen to this.
I mean, no, I don't know if they're great tidbits, but UB basketball is up to 12-2 now. They've won their 2 MAC games on the road and play their first home MAC game against Ball State on Saturday afternoon. I'm gonna try to check that out. Bandits are back in town. They're 2-1, playing Saturday night against Las Vegas Desert Dogs, and that the significance there, if you follow the Bandits in that league, Chase Frazier and Chris Cloutier, who were key players on the last 3 championship teams, are now playing for Las Vegas, and they'll be back in town with that. This is also the Tucker Out Lymphoma Cup, where they honor a former player and his son who died from lymphoma years ago, and they raise awareness, wear special jerseys, auction those off, and also play this series of games for a cup to honor Tucker Williams. So that's going on with Bandits and Banditland. So it's a big Buffalo sports weekend. The Sabres are out of town playing at Columbus on Saturday at 3 o'clock. That game starts, but then they'll be back in town for a couple home games next week. Bills, probably the last home game we're going to see of them this season. Bandits in town, college basketball, all that going on.
Who has the, because of the Atlantic 10, St. Bonaventure, I think, has the most interesting conference schedule that ahead, right? I mean, that's.
Well, yeah, St. Bonaventure lost their A-10 opener at VCU. They had a lead, I think an 8-point lead with about 5 or 6 minutes left in that game. I think St. Bonaventure is the best team of the local teams, but has the toughest league that they play in, the toughest league to win. So.
Yeah, all right. Well, we got plenty of time to talk about that. But the Sabres have decided to come back from the dead and give us something to talk about at a time when the Bills might be on borrowed time. Sorry, Joe. But I think you agree.
Listen, to me, it's house money this year. Anything they do in the playoffs, I'm an optimist, but I'm a realist. So let's just see what happens. Let's get through this week first. Let's get through playing the shitty Jets. Let's get through that game unscathed, and then we'll go from there.
Make sure
I wonder, maybe this is too big of a topic to end on. But I think the Bills have kind of already squandered what this season was supposed to be about, which was getting home field advantage in the playoffs, having home playoff games at the stadium. Maybe they, save that by winning the road games and going to the Super Bowl. And maybe it somehow makes this last regular season game cooler because it is the real last game, and it would have been a little weird if they were celebrating like the last game, the farewell game, when they were playing another playoff game a week later. But the fact that there probably won't be a home playoff game seems like something the Bills have already lost. But maybe there's that wild scenario where they do host the AFC Championship game as a wild card team. That's still on the table.
And the window hasn't closed and the Bills are proving it this year. With Josh Allen, you still make the playoffs. But there is that frustration, I'm sure, at one Bills drive that the Patriots have already caught back up to them. And the Patriots do not look like a smoke and mirrors team like, say, the New York Giants under Dable that first year. They have the quarterback. They have the coach that the players respond to. They turned over their roster already. This isn't going to be a transitional offseason for them. They're young. Heading into that Bills-Patriots game, they had the second most rookie snaps to only the Cleveland Browns. So they're young. Their draft picks are already playing, and they have the quarterback, and they've hit that reset button. And to now know that the Bills don't have that big cushion between them and the three other teams in the division anymore is gotta be a kick in the balls.
But maybe that's what they need. Maybe the Patriots first of all, and it might be a transitional off season for the Patriots because we don't know who else is going to get charged with something else. I mean, they could have the best team in the Massachusetts penal system for all we know. I mean, another day, another charge, right? But realistically, maybe this is what they need, to light a fire under them because, you had that few years there where it was kind of like the other three teams are playing for second. And not that I want to see the Patriots get better so quickly, but maybe this is the wake-up call they need now. You don't rest on your laurels. And I know no GM or coach is ever going to say they rest on their laurels, but maybe this is the wake-up call they need now where there's a legitimate challenge back in the division. So again, that's the optimist in me going, okay, well, it sucks that they're good again, but maybe they'll play off that and finally get a wide receiver next year and that they can, that Josh can rely on.
I urge those who are listening to the podcast to check out an article. I don't know what the best keywords to Google, but heading into last season, or maybe it was 2 seasons ago, because the Bills were winning the AFC East so easily, I did a story where I dug into how likely you are to win a Super Bowl when you win the division so easily versus winning it tightly. Now, of course, there have been teams that have won the Super Bowl as a wild card team. So you don't have to win the division, which is also lends itself to winning, getting through a tough regular season. And the data showed that the tougher your regular season, the longer you go in the playoffs and the better chance you have of actually getting to and winning the Super Bowl. Teams that win it easily might get to the Super Bowl, but then lose it or not even reach the Super Bowl at all. Most notable example of that would be the New England Patriots in 2007, going undefeated and then getting beat in the playoffs by a team that did not win its division at all, or beating the Super Bowl by a team that didn't win its division at all. Okay, Joe, thanks for this. Make sure you check out Joe's podcast. It's Coliseum Chronicles, and it is at Coli Sinbin, Coli Sinbin Pod. That's the Twitter account. And read his book, New York Subway Hero, My Battle with Evil and a Spree Killer. That's available on Amazon. Joe, thanks for doing this.
Oh, anytime. Tim, I love it. I do this even if we weren't recording.
We have done this. We've done it anytime you come to town. We sit at a restaurant and do this.
An undisclosed restaurant.
Yeah, undisclosed restaurants. And someday maybe I'll have a disclosed location where we'll do maybe the podcast or just from my home. But right now it is undisclosed and will remain as such for the first.
I am here whenever you need me. I am here. And if what you said is true, if the battle tested teams have shown that, you know, they have a better chance, then maybe I should make plans for a Super Bowl party, because I don't know any team that's more battle tested than this Bills team. And I see people online talking about this alleged script, and this between the good teams that are falling by the wayside, and the Super Bowl being in San Francisco, which isn't that far from Fireball. You know, I'll believe in conspiracy theories for a couple of weeks, but no, thanks for having me, Tim. It's always a pleasure.
All right, with the script, and I'll open it up and then we'll close the podcast. I know we've been going on for a while here. Who is the hero in the script? Who does Josh Allen team up with for the winning touchdown? Is it Keon Coleman?
I'm sorry I'm laughing, but I think it has to be James Cook III, no?
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe
Yeah.
so.
Yep, has to be James.
It's Dawson Knox, the new dad connection.
And then you know what song they're going to play. Oh.
Not at the Super Bowl. Not at
I
the
hope
Super
not.
Bowl. It will be the NFL is in charge of that, not the Bills.
Yeah, true.
So
as long as
we
they don't
don't-
put the lyrics up.
We won't have to hear that in the playoffs, probably. All right, Joe Lozito, Jonah Bronstein, and thank you to you, the listener/viewer, for stopping by. Tim Graham and Friends, brought to you by CTBK, CPAs and Business Consultants.
The financial needs of a business go beyond tax and attest services. That's why CTBK goes beyond accounting services and offers outsourced solutions through their affiliation with CFO Solutions Plus. These additional services allow clients to focus on their operational and long-term strategic goals. Trust CTBK's outsourced solutions to provide cost-effective, value-added financial services tailored to your company's needs. Call CTBK at 716-630-2400. Again, 716-630-2400. Or go to ctbk.com to learn more about CTBK's outsourced solutions.